Hi, I'm Marilyn, or some of you may know me as Dresden, depending on which corner of the internet you found me. I was raised in a strict Mormon household and somehow ended up in porn. For a long time, I've been wanting to share my story. As I've been told, it's an interesting one. There are a lot of eras, a lot of instances that I want to get into. So therefore, these videos will be parceled out as segments. I'm also keen on doing a Q&A video, so be sure to leave me your questions in the comments section. I anticipate there will be questions about my involvement with the YouTube group Smosh from back in the day, but I also anticipate there will be questions about my involvement in the adult industry. And as I am not totally sure yet what I am and am not allowed to say on a YouTube video, I'm gonna have to research that a bit, but I'd love to get into it, so here we go. Thank you for taking an interest. I hope that there's even one person out there who resonates with my story that can feel less alone. I hope that there's even more people who listen and can feel informed. I think it's very important that we share our stories, not only for individual benefits, it's therapeutic and it's good to vent. I also am a big believer that knowledge is power, and I've been amazed just over the last couple of years of my own personal healing journey. I've been amazed by how much self-discovery I've kind of stumbled into just from hearing others' stories, other folks who have been so brave to put themselves out there on the World Wide Web where people can be harsh. You're putting yourself out there, you're asking for scrutiny, but me personally, I think I can handle it. I've been through worse. Oh, and this is Jumanji. He helps me feel comforted and safe. Okay, so let's start from the beginning, shall we? I was born in the early 90s. I know, I was born in the 1900s. That already sounds so trippy to say. I have both my parents still together. I grew up with both sets of my grandparents, very close. I have a lot of cousins, Mormon. Each of these families had many, many kids. So, and family was my first community. We were all very close. I'm talking close as in socially, but also close as in like doesn't sound good. No, how should I put it? Basically, we all lived near each other. That was very important. And as a kid, I loved it. My cousins, I had so many cousins right around my own age. We grew up together. And that was very idyllic, and I miss it. And I miss a lot of them, but we'll get into why we're not in each other's lives anymore later on. So we are also all Mormon. Yeah, that I have like 50 cousins total, something like that. Every single one of them is Mormon. On my mom's side of the family, we've got some like Mormon heritage that dates back to the pioneers, like Mormon dynasty, what have you. And on my dad's side, it is also Mormon, full blown. So I never stood a chance, is how it feels for me. I was born into this system that, it seemed like everybody else just was naturally on board with. The adults all, of course, chose to stay within the church, and most of their kids did too. However, I never felt in agreement with all of it. Like, the standards, the expectations, the culture in general, I've always felt othered, alienated, very isolated too, because it's hard to be surrounded by family and friends, and everyone's got this completely different outlook from you, and it's very shameful if you don't hold those same beliefs. Like, it's not allowed. So it was a struggle right from the start, and I'm like exhausted even when I just like think back to it. But it's okay. We're okay now. We made it. So I was baptized at the age of 8, like all good little Mormon kids are. And that's something that to this day I still feel a bit disgruntled about, because I didn't feel like I had a say in it. You were pressured, like, oh my gosh, I can't even fathom what the punishment might have been had I like dared to push back or speak against it, or raise my voice and be like, hey, wait a second, actually I've been doing some like pondering and thinking of my own, and I don't hear this still small voice. If you're Mormon, you'll get that reference. So got baptized, officially a member. I knew I still had many years to go before I could start branching out into the world and seeing what else was out there. I've always considered myself to be fairly independent, with a bit of a rebellious streak, but I was an obedient child. Whether I wanted to be or not, it was, you were going to comply, basically. It was non-negotiable obedience, or I don't even want to. And actually, my mom to this day still has this, like, it's one of her stories. And if you were to meet her on the street, you'd probably hear this story, okay? And so she'd get it. So let's back up. Mormon church, you go to something called sacrament meeting every Sunday. It's at least 3 hours long. It's boring. It's a snooze fest. And you wonder why I like wasn't into this. Okay, so my mom would get up to bear her testimony, which is a thing that Mormons do on Fast Sunday, which is the first Sunday of every month. You have to fast, which as a kid always bothered me too. I was like, what do you mean I'm being deprived of like breakfast and lunch and water? You can't drink water. I knew some families that were so extreme that they wouldn't allow anyone in the household to even brush their teeth on fast Sundays, because then you're ingesting water. And anyway, so there was an opportunity in the congregation during sacrament meetings. Anyone could get up and bear their testimony, and my mom, being the devoutly religious woman that she is, she'd get up there and tell this story in front of the whole audience, which was like 600 people. She'd say about how when I was in first grade, we had an activity, maybe like a arts and crafts activity, and it involved coffee beans, just raw coffee beans. Maybe we were counting them. I don't know. I don't remember that part. But what was important to my mom was that, so she says, the way she tells it is, I walked home from school that day just like very dejected, very somber. So she knew something was wrong right away, and she asked me, what's going on? And I let her know that at my table in my little group in class, 3 out of 4 of us dared each other to eat a coffee bean. And I remember this too. Like, I remember when it happened, and I was like sweating and I was turning red. Looking back, I should have just like ate the coffee bean and been like, oh, okay, it was fine, But in Mormon lore, coffee is very, it's an oh no. It's very demonized. Mormons really shouldn't even be drinking sodas that have caffeine. So it was taboo, and I was how old are you in first grade? I was a child. And I felt very pressured because my classmates were kind of honing in on the fact that I was acting weird. And I was already a shy kid who had a lot of like problems going on at home. So, it made me want to just like fly under the radar. I never wanted to even be called on in class. I'd start crying. So I think I did tear up and I did cry, yeah, because one of the people in the group was like my best friend at the time too. And she was like, what's the big deal? Like, eat the coffee bean. And I was like, why do you guys want me to eat the coffee bean so bad? I'm not gonna. So I went home and I told my mom this, and it must have filled her with such a sense of pride because, like I said, everybody's still hearing about this coffee bean story, but so she likes to share that in front of the crowd, and she takes a lot of credit for like, that's my daughter. I raised her to be in the light and to always choose the right. And the reality was that it's not that I was like feeling so pious or like that I even believed in this word of wisdom, which is the thing that dictates what Mormons like can and can't eat or drink or ingest. I really remember what was going through my head as a scared little kid was that I was petrified of the consequences. It would have been more likely than not that my parents would have never ever found out about the stupid coffee bean incident. But the way that I was raised and brought up, I knew that my mom was like all knowing, all seeing, and my dad too, and they were always looking for reasons to get me in trouble. So I really did not want to give them like a really juicy opportunity to punish me, and I would be afraid to even imagine what the punishment would have been for such an infraction. So it's not like that big of a deal. It's annoying that my mom like interprets that story the way she does, and I don't think I've ever tried to like explain to her what was actually going on. I don't think she would even care if I did. But I know in my heart, as early as first grade, right, I was feeling like very stressed about this religion that I was born into and was being brought up in. That caused a lot of social awkwardness for me because Mormons, at least the way I was raised, Mormons are very exclusive, particularly my family. Very exclusive, meaning like, no, we don't need any new people. They're not inclusive. We're good. We're all Mormons and we're all family. We're going to be like here and we're going to be like shunning the non-believers because they really think that if you're a non-member, you're like lower than dirt. That was the vibe I got. That was what I was taught. So, which I didn't believe. And I, also, I picked up on that really young and I realized like, okay, so I'm considered dirt. Got it. Great. I haven't even made it to like tying my own shoes yet. And I've already got such a number done on me. I never stood a chance, y'all. But, my mom also, she still to this day brags about what a quiet and obedient baby I was. So much so that she has another fun little story she likes to tell about. I was so quiet as a baby that she left me in my crib, went to the grocery store, ran some errands, and only like then did she realize, oh my gosh, I left her in her crib. And she rushed back home and I was fine. I wasn't actually in danger, but the fact that that's another like proud moment. And I used to not like really think one way or another about that, but the older I get, fast forward through several highly dysfunctional, abusive relationships, a couple of those later, and I'm only just now like understanding how being obedient is not the same thing as knowing what your boundaries are and enforcing them. But, if you're born a woman in the Mormon religion, you don't really get to even learn what those boundaries are. You certainly aren't being taught. So I've learned the hard way what my boundaries are. Lots of therapy. On the topic of obedience, pretty much my entire family, like extended relatives, and certainly my parents, believed in constant compliance, constant obedience, and they were very quick, might I say, eager to dole out the punishment for any infractions. And when I say punishment, I mean specifically corporal punishment. If you know what that is, you know that's like, it's pretty extreme. If I had children, I personally would not utilize that tactic. It did, I feel like there was a tinge, I don't know, I'm getting all like, I did feel like there was a hint of sadism which accompanied it. You know, I always felt like my parents or like the authorities in my life were always looking for a reason to punish me. I'm sure it was to squash me down, try to extinguish that inner light in me. In any fight that I was born with, they wanted to stamp out, because you need to be a breeding cow if you're born a girl in this religion. And I had no interest in having kids or making babies or anything. So like, what else were they going to do with me? The brainwashing didn't work. Yeah, it's taken me a long time to admit, to even accept that a lot of the punishments kind of veered into like the realm of physical abuse. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty here, or not in this video, but they got creative. You know, when you sustain like a certain injury from it, they have to switch up their game, right? You can't go to school with like marks or wounds. You know, sometimes if I'm trying to find like empathy or sympathy for these people who made me and raised me, I just think about the fact that as Mormons, as very, very strict, severe Mormons, they really had no outlets, right? Like, how are they going to blow off steam? They don't drink, they don't smoke. A lot of things that like people outside of the religion kind of just take for granted as like everyday parts of life were like huge taboos in that religion, especially within my household. So, you know, it's like there's rage. The Book of Mormon doesn't say anything against like taking it out on your kids, you know, or your loved ones. So that's, you know, and that's like so pitiful. It doesn't actually help, but it does give me the framework of like, why would they do this? Like, we were already obedient. We were good kids. But you can bet that that's had a lasting effect on me in my adult life. Again, you're gonna follow the thread with me, and all will soon be revealed and all will make sense. I'm still trying to make sense of it as I go, but yes, to my previous point, it's only just recently that I've been able to sit with the fact that yes, I did endure physical abuse, which sucks, but without a doubt, the emotional abuse and constant attempts at brainwashing is what hurt the worst, and that really wore me down. I pride myself on having a pretty high pain tolerance, which explains some of my career path. But the psychic warfare is just daunting, and I know it stunted my development. And I like to say that one of my parents was certainly an emotional terrorist in the home. And I'll leave it at that. I guess you could say that I internalized my parents' need for needless, invisible children at a very young age. Yeah, all I can say is that sucks. It's okay, I made up for it through my teens and adulthood. There's a lot of lost time I had to catch up on, and that will be for another video on another day, because it's a lot to go over. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for caring if you care, and stick around because I've got a bunch of other topics I want to speak candidly about. And don't forget to ask me questions in the comments. Bye.